Welcome to Tales by Bali, where we bring you stories of love, power, and destiny from the heart of Africa. Today's story will take you deep into the Mpondo Kingdom, where a queen must balance her throne, her people, and the rivalries of 4 husbands. If you love stories of warriors, kingdoms, and the struggles of the heart, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the bell, so you never miss the next chapter of this saga. Now, let's step into the fire and begin the story. Part 1. The morning of Nomvula's coronation began with the sound of cattle moving toward the river. The animals were led by young men from the royal kraal, their hooves striking the dry earth as drums rolled in the distance. The kingdom had gathered to see a new ruler crowned. It was the first time in living memory that the Mpondo throne would not pass to a man. Some people were curious, others were uneasy. Nomvula stood at the edge of the great river with her guards around her. She wore a robe of dark blue cloth with beadwork that had been made by her grandmother. Her hair was tied back, and her face was painted with white clay from the riverbed. She held a spear in her right hand, not as decoration but as a weapon that had already drawn blood in battle. The elders' council sat on carved stools nearby. They whispered among themselves, looking at her with mixed feelings. Some supported her. Others thought she should step aside for one of the late king's male cousins. When the cattle were brought to the river, the high priest, Zwelinzima, stepped forward. He was an old man with sharp eyes, the man who spoke most often to the ancestors. He raised his staff and called the people to silence. "This is the daughter of King Zelani," he said. "She stands here to claim the throne of her father. Today we ask the ancestors if they will accept her." The cattle were slaughtered, their blood running into the river. The people sang, and the sound of the drums grew louder. Nomvula stepped into the water, holding the spear above her head. The priest dipped his staff in the river, and touched her shoulders. "You are crowned, Nomvula of the Mpondo. From this day, you are the queen." The crowd cheered, but not all voices joined. In the back, some men muttered that a woman could not hold power. Nomvula heard them, but she kept her head high. When the ceremony ended, the elders came forward. Their leader, Chief Mthembu, spoke. "Nomvula, you are the blood of kings, and we cannot deny that. But to hold this throne, you must strengthen it. The kingdom is weak. Our enemies wait for us to falter. You cannot rule alone." Nomvula looked at him without fear. "I will not rule alone. I will rule with my council and with the warriors of this land." Chief Mthembu shook his head. "That is not enough. We demand that you take husbands. 4 men, each chosen for a reason. One will lead in battle. One will guide with wisdom. One will give the people beauty and joy. One will bind us with alliance." The words carried across the crowd. There was silence. Nomvula felt anger rise in her chest. She had just taken the throne, and already they tried to bind her decisions. But she also knew that refusing would divide the kingdom even more. She raised her spear and spoke loudly. "If this is the will of the council, then I will take these 4 husbands. But hear me now. They will be my husbands, not my masters. The throne belongs to me alone." The crowd erupted. Some shouted in support, others in doubt. But the decision was made. That night, fires were lit across the kingdom. Messengers were sent to summon the men chosen to become her husbands. The first to arrive was Mkusili, the warrior. He came on horseback, wearing armor made from hardened leather, his spear tied to his back. His face was stern, his body strong from years of leading men in battle. He knelt before Nomvula but looked at her with a gaze that showed he saw her as both queen and rival. The second was Zwelinzima, the priest and keeper of wisdom. Unlike Mkusili, he did not kneel. He bowed his head gently and placed a carved staff before her feet. His eyes seemed to look past her, as if he could see things that others could not. The third was Lenga, the husband of beauty. He was young, with smooth skin and a face that drew attention wherever he went. He smiled easily, and when he spoke, people listened, not to his words but to the way he carried himself. The fourth was Job, son of a rival chief. His arrival brought tension. His father had fought King Zolani many times, and now he came as husband, not enemy. He bowed low, but Nomvula saw in his eyes that he did not come only for love or loyalty. He came for ambition. When they all stood together before her, the people whispered. Some said the queen was strong for binding so many powers to her side. Others said it was dangerous. That night, as the fires burned and the drums beat, the 4 men sat with Nomvula. The feast was loud, but beneath the surface there was unease. Each man studied the other, measuring strength, watching for weakness. At the end of the feast, the high priest Swalinzima rose again. He lifted his staff and spoke in a voice that carried across the night. 4 husbands for a queen, he said, but only 3 will see the kingdom's dawn. The drums stopped. The crowd fell silent. The prophecy had been spoken. Part 2. The morning after the feast started before sunrise. Smoke rose from cooking fires across the royal homestead. The guards changed shifts at the gates. The courtyard was wet from the river mist. People moved with quiet steps because the day was heavy with work. Coronation celebrations were over. The rule of the new queen had to begin in a clear and organized way. Nomvula woke in her sleeping hut while the sky was still dark blue. She sat up, drank water, and washed her face with a cloth that smelled of river clay. She called for her aide, Nantambai. Nantambai entered and greeted her. "We start with the council at first light," Nomvula said. "Then I want time with each husband. Separate meetings. No crowd. No audience." Nantambai nodded. "I will set it up." Nomvula dressed in plain clothing. No heavy beadwork. No ceremony. She wore a leather belt with a short blade. She tied her hair back. She wanted to move quickly. Outside, the royal compound was busy. Messengers waited for orders. Stable boys brushed horses. Spears stood in neat rows against the wall. The drums were silent. Only the wind moved through the grass and the sound of cattle reached the ear. It felt like the first true day of her rule. Council at first light. The elders' council gathered in the round meeting hut. Each elder sat on a low stool. A shallow fire burned in the pit at the center. Smoke moved straight up through the roof opening. Chief Mthembu sat to the left of the entrance. The scribe, a young man named Nkosanathi, sat with a wooden board and a bag of charcoal sticks. Nomvula entered with 2 guards. She did not sit right away. She stood until everyone fell quiet. "We begin," she said. "I want clear reports. No praise songs. No speeches." Chief Mthembu raised his hand. "We accept that, Queen. First, there are border matters. The Mbangweni and the Zalika have argued over a grazing strip near the bend in the river. The Mbangweni say they have used it for years. The Zalika say the line on the stones shows it is theirs. The argument became a fight yesterday during the feast. 1 man is injured. 1 calf was taken. Bring both headmen to the great court after midday," Nomvula said. "No delay." Another elder spoke. "There is also a matter of grain. The dry months have eaten into our stores. The north granary is low. The south granary is still healthy. Move grain from south to north today," Nomvula said. "Count it on both sides. If there are missing sacks, I will remove the person who fails in that duty." There were nods around the circle. The elders were watching her carefully. They wanted to see if she hesitated. She did not. Chief Mthembu leaned forward. "We will do as you say. There is one more point. Your husbands need housing, guard posts, and staff. If they stay in the same yard, there will be trouble." "They will not share a yard," Nomvula said. "They will each have a home inside the royal fence but on different sides of the compound. I want equal space. I want a shared practice ground near the river for weapons and horse work. I want a shared hall for meals with me when called. I want a clear schedule for nights and for council duties. I will write the rules myself." Mthembu looked surprised. "You will write the rules?" "Yes," Nomvula said. "I will write the rules." The meeting ended quickly after that. Nomvula told Nantambai to call the carpenter, the fence builders, and the quartermaster. She wanted the husbands' homes settled before sunset if possible, at least with temporary walls, sleeping mats, and water jars. First meetings with the husbands. Nomvula chose to meet Mkusali first. He was the husband of battle, and the one most likely to test limits openly. She found him on the practice field, already awake, already working. He wore a plain tunic and held a spear. He moved through drills with speed and focus. He did not look up when she approached. He finished the drill, then turned to her and bowed his head. "You rise early," she said. "War does not sleep," he answered. "Neither does rule," she said. "Walk with me." They moved along the edge of the field. Guards kept a respectful distance. "I am placing you over the palace guard and the main field troops," Nomvula said. "You will oversee training, watch rotations, and the readiness of weapons and horses. You will report to me every evening." "That is good," Mkusali said. "I will keep this place hard and alert." "Hard and alert is not enough," Nomvula said. "I want discipline that does not harm our own. There will be no beatings that draw blood during training. There will be no raids without my direct order. If trouble comes from the border, you will prepare a response, and then you will wait for my word." Mkusali stopped and faced her. "Sometimes waiting loses lives. And acting without order loses kingdoms," she said. "You will follow my word. If you have a case for immediate action, you will bring it, and you will say it fast and clearly." "I will decide fast and clearly." He held her gaze. He was not soft. He would not nod just to please her. At last he said, "I can do that." "You will do it," she said. "Also, you will treat the other husbands with respect in front of the people. You will not speak to them as if they are lesser soldiers. You may speak plainly with me in private. In public, you will be steady." Mkusali gave a short nod. "Understood." They parted with no extra words. She felt the weight of him like the weight of a shield on her arm, useful, heavy, and able to press too hard if left unchecked. Next she met Zwelinzima in the shade of the sacred fig tree near the river. He sat on a woven mat with his staff across his knees. He had already set out a bowl of river water and a small dish of ash for reading signs. "You have a schedule for me," he said before she spoke. "You have a question as well." "You will sit in council with me each morning," she said. "You will write a daily letter for me with counsel on law, seasons, and health of the people. This letter will be short and practical. I do not want riddles." Zwelinzima smiled a little. "You do not want riddles. But you want truth. Truth is not always simple." "I know that," she said, "but I want you to speak in simple words. Tell me what you see. Tell me what it may mean. Tell me what you think we should do. Do not scare people with big talk. Do not whisper to them in corners. If you have a warning, bring it where I can hear it." "I can do that," he said. "I will also need freedom to speak to the keepers of shrines, the singers, and the midwives. They hold knowledge that the council ignores." "You have that freedom," she said. "But you must not use that circle to build a power separate from the throne." He looked at the water and then back at her. "I serve the kingdom. I serve you. I will not build a second throne." She did not reply to the last promise. She simply said, "The prophecy from last night is already moving through the homestead. I will not let fear drive decisions in the first week of my rule. If people ask, say this. The queen heard the words. The queen is ruling. It is enough." "I will say it that way," he answered. Nomvula left him and walked to the open market yard. Traders were already laying out goods: salt, beads, dried fish, woven baskets. People bowed as she passed but kept selling. She liked that. Work had to continue. Her third meeting was with Lenga. She found him in the temporary house the builders had assigned to him for the night. He was still dressing when she entered with Nantambai. He covered his chest, then laughed at himself and finished tying his belt. "I woke late," he said. "The drums kept going in my head." "You can say you were tired," she said. "You do not need to make jokes." He lowered his eyes. "I was tired." "You will have a household team," Nomvula said. Singers, drum leaders, the royal gourd keeper. You will plan public gatherings that lift people. Not only dances. I want market days with order. I want clean wells. I want the music to open and close with a short message that helps people understand what the palace is doing. No flattery. No lies. Clear messages. Lenga looked surprised. You want me to carry messages? Yes, she said. You are good at reaching people. Use it for the kingdom. You will also sit with our scribes to help with a notice board in the main yard. We will post decisions there. People must see them with their eyes and not only hear them through gossip. He nodded. I can do this. I can do it well. But I need to ask for one thing. What is it? She asked. I do not want to be seen as only a face, he said in a low voice. I want tasks that prove I can carry weight. Give me something hard each week. Something that does not involve songs or smiles. You will run the well project, Nomvula said at once. I want clean water records from each well inside the capital and in the nearest villages. 2 weeks from today, I want a report with 3 parts. List of wells, their condition, and what they need. If a well is dry, mark it. If a ring is broken, mark it. Bring it to me in writing. Lenga straightened. I will do it. Good, she said. Last point. When we are in public, do not stand too close to me. Not yet. The people are watching. Let them see me speak to all 4 husbands with the same distance. He swallowed and nodded. I understand. The final meeting was with Job. She found him at the outer yard where new fence posts were going into the ground. He was speaking with the carpenter in a soft voice. When he saw her, he stepped back and bowed low. You are already arranging your home, she said. I was asking for smaller windows on the west wall, he said. The wind is harsh there. You pay attention to walls and wind, she said. That is good. They walked along the new fence line. Workers raised a doorway frame. Children ran with water gourd refills for them. Your father's people will be watching you, Nomvula said. They will be watching me through you. You will send a letter today. You will say this. The Queen has taken you as husband and expects full loyalty. The Queen is not planning a campaign. The Queen is stabilizing the capital. The Queen requests a meeting with your father's envoy in 7 days, at the border shrine. The Queen will not cross the line. The envoy must not cross the line. Both sides will bring 10 guards only. Job kept his eyes forward. I will write the letter and send it with a runner before midday. I will approve it before it goes, she said. He nodded. Of course. There is one more thing, Nomvula said. People here will test you because of your father. Do not answer with anger. Do not answer with sarcasm. If there is a question of loyalty, bring it to me fast. If anyone tries to draw you into private deals, refuse them and tell me. I will do so, he said. I want to say one thing as well. Say it. I know I arrived as a symbol of peace, he said. I do not want to be useless. Give me a task that proves I can hold weight inside your plan. You will oversee the cattle census, she said. We need a clear count after the feast and after recent raids. Work with the herd masters. Move across crawls with a small team and guards. I want a written record of numbers, brands, and ages. If a calf is missing, mark it. If a brand is unclear, mark it. Report theft suspicions but do not make arrests without bringing names to me. Job nodded slowly. That is a large task. It is a necessary one, she said. Begin today. He looked grateful and careful at the same time. I will begin today. Rules of the marriage households by mid-morning. Nomvula gathered all 4 husbands in the shared hall. The room was simple. 4 low tables, a long bench, clean mats, jugs of water, and bread set out on wooden plates. The windows were open to the courtyard. Guards stood outside. Nomvula stood at the head of the room with a thin roll of bark paper in her hand. These are the first rules of our households, she said. I will read them, and copies will be posted at your doors and at the notice board. She read in a clear voice. 1. Each husband will keep a separate household inside the royal fence. No husband will step into another husband's yard without invitation. 2. There will be a shared practice ground and a shared hall. In these shared spaces, there will be no private challenges, no hidden duels, and no raised voices during public hours. 3. There will be a rotation for evening meals with me. There will be a separate rotation for private night. The schedule will be written for the month and posted. Changes will go through my aide. 4. Matters of law and war are decided by me. Each husband may advise in his area. Advice will be given directly to me or in council, not through rumors. 5. Insults between husbands, spoken in public or to staff, will be treated as an attack on the throne. The first offense will bring removal from public duties for 7 days. The second offense will bring removal for 30 days. A third offense will bring removal from the royal compound. 6. No household will use gifts or money to pull staff or guards from another household. No buying of loyalty inside the royal fence. 7. Affairs with staff are banned. Any husband who misuses his position with staff will face a public hearing. 8. Any act that invites outside clans to test our fence without my order is treason. She placed the bark paper on the table. Sign with your marks. Mkusili stepped forward first and pressed his thumb into ink, then onto the paper. He did it without a word. Zwelinzima took a stick of charcoal and drew a thin line mark he used for temple note. Lenga pressed a thumbprint and then added a small cross. Job pressed a thumbprint and then added a curve that he said was the brand mark of his mother's line. Nomvula nodded and called Nksasinathi, the scribe, to take the document to be dried and posted. Now we eat, she said. After we eat, there is work. Today will be long. They ate quietly. There was no forced closeness. Each man watched the others. There was no open anger, but the space between them felt tight and careful. Training ground tension after the meal. Mkusili led the first training session on the river field. He set lines of young warriors and moved them through drills. He corrected stances with short commands. He ran them until sweat covered their back. He did not shout for show, he shouted to be heard. Lenga arrived with 2 singers to observe. He wanted to understand the rhythm of palace life if he was to plan public event. He also wanted to see Mkusili in his element. Stand beyond the line, Mkusili called to him. This is not a show. I am not here to watch like a crowd, Lenga said. I am here to learn the schedule so I do not plan over it. Then ask me for the schedule, Mkusili said. Do not stand near my lines. Lenga stepped back without answering. He kept his face calm, but his shoulders were stiff. Zwelinzima, who had come to bless the new field markers, watched the exchange and said nothing. When the drill ended, one of the young warriors broke form and ran to Lenga to ask for water. Lenga gave it to him. Mkusili saw it and walked over. Do not hand water to a soldier who breaks a line, Mkusili said. It teaches him to run to comfort instead of finishing his work. He was dizzy, Lenga said. He needed water. I decide when a soldier needs a pause, Mkusili said. The 2 men stood close. The field went very quiet. Zwelinzima stepped between them. Both of you are right in your own areas, the priest said. Next time, Lenga, signal to the captain. Mkusili, mark a pause for water every set time. Set the rule now, and it will be clear for all. Mkusili looked like he wanted to refuse, then he exhaled. Fine. We will set a water break. It will be on my call. Lenga nodded once. And I will not step over your line. It was a small thing, but the field learned something from it. Lines mattered. So did working through the right channel. The first court of the new reign after midday, the court began. The 2 headmen from the border dispute arrived. The injured man came on a litter with his bandaged leg. The calf in question was tied with a rope near the doorway, watched by a boy who kept it from wandering. Nomvula sat on the high seat. The council sat to her left. The scribe sat on the floor near her feet to write what was said. "State your case," Nomvula said to the Mbangweni headman. He spoke plainly. "Our families have grazed the strip near the river bend since my father's time. The stones that mark the line were moved last month. We believe the Zalika moved them." She turned to the Zalika headman. "Your answer?" He lifted his chin. "The stones were moved by the river flood. We did not move them. Once they shifted, we grazed up to the stones. The calf came into our area. A boy from my kraal took it for safekeeping. There was a fight when the Mbangweni came to take it back." Nomvula asked for the men who had seen the flood mark. 2 elders from a nearby village testified that water had been high 3 weeks before and had pulled 2 boundary stones from their places. They showed a small sketch on bark of where the stones used to sit near a big tree root. Nomvula asked for the boy who took the calf. He said he grabbed the rope because the calf was walking into a thorn bush, and he thought it would hurt itself. Voices rose. She lifted her hand and the room went quiet again. Nomvula called for Zwelinzima. "Look at the stones with a team today," she said to him. "Take 2 elders from neutral villages. Use the old marks on tree roots and the old scribe notes for the boundary stones. Set the stones back where they belong by sunset. The calf will go back with the Mbangweni. There will be no fine. Both sides are responsible for the fight. If anyone moves the stones again, both headmen will pay cattle to the crown. 1 head each." Both headmen started to talk at the same time. She raised her hand again. "This is the ruling. It stands. Send your men to help Zwelinzima move the stones now." The injured man was brought forward. The healer reported that the wound would heal but the man would limp for some weeks. Nomvula ordered a gift of grain for his family for 2 weeks while he could not work. The court moved to the next case. A woman accused a palace cook of touching her without consent during the feast. The room shifted. Some people avoided eye contact. Nomvula kept her face steady and called the woman to speak. She listened to the details. She asked for the cook to answer. The cook looked at the floor and tried to explain it away as a mistake. Nomvula called 2 other women who had worked beside him that night. Their stories supported the woman. Nomvula removed the cook from his post at once and ordered him confined while a fuller investigation continued under the law. She then called the head of palace staff. "This is the first week of my rule," she said. "We will set a clear rule today. No touching of staff, traders, visitors, or anyone else in this compound without consent. If a report like this comes again and is supported by witness or sign, the person at fault will be removed and punished under the law. This extends to my husbands. It extends to chiefs. It extends to guards." She said it in the same even tone she used for border stones. The room understood that she would not protect anyone for rank. By late afternoon, the court ended. The sun was low. People returned to their yards with the weight of the new order on their shoulders. Letters, lists, and quiet checks. Nomvula returned to her work hut. On the table were 4 items: a draft letter from Job to his father's people, a short council note from Zwelinzima about the grain move, a first draft of the notice board plan from Lenga, and a report from Kusali on guard rotations. She read Job's letter first. It said that he was well, that the Queen had given him a task, that the capital was quiet, and that a border envoy meeting in 7 days would be welcome. It asked that both sides bring 10 guards, keep weapons sheathed, and stand a spear's length apart. It used steady language. She made 2 small changes and signed it. She sealed it with clay. She read Zwelinzima's note. It said to move 8 stacks of grain from south to north, to keep 2 stacks aside in the palace for emergencies, and to post the count publicly. It also said that old people and families with many children should be at the front of the distribution line. She approved it and asked the scribe to add the line about old people and children to the notice board in clear, simple words. Lenga's notice board plan was short and direct. It used small carved symbols for those who could not read. A sack drawing for grain news, a spear drawing for guard changes, a wave for river rules, and a hand for new laws about conduct. She liked that. She circled the hand symbol and wrote, "Add a simple sentence. Do not touch without consent. Report to the head of staff if it happens." Mkusali's guard report listed names and hours. The rotations were tight. She added a note, "Add 2 women to the front gate day shift. Rotate every 6 days instead of 7 to avoid long fatigue." Nantambai brought water and a small plate of meat and maize. Nomvula ate while she signed the final copies. "Where is Princess Amelie?" Nomvula asked. "In her yard," Nantambai said. "She asked to see you." "Tell her I will come at evening light," Nomvula said. Princess Amelie. As the sun dipped, Nomvula walked to her sister's yard. Amelie met her at the gate with a quick hug. She was younger by 3 years, lively, and often impatient with council talk. "You look strong today," Amelie said. "People are already talking about the court case and the cook." "I do not care what they say," Nomvula said. "I care that the rule is clear." They sat on a low bench. A bird called in the fig tree. Children laughed somewhere beyond the fence. Amelie leaned in. "I want to help. Give me work." "You will run the cloth stores," Nomvula said. "There was theft last month. The counts are wrong. I need new counts and a lock rule. No more taking without a written slip. If someone needs cloth, they will get it. But we will know where it goes." Amelie's face lit up. "I can do that. I will make it neat by tomorrow night." "Do not rush," Nomvula said. "Make it right." Amelie nodded and then hesitated. "The husbands are handsome," she said, trying to sound light. "Langa smiles like the sun after a storm." Nomvula looked at her sister. "We are not talking about smiles." "I know," Amelie said, embarrassed. "I was only saying." "Never mind. I will do the cloth counts." Nomvula stood. "Thank you. Do the work. That is how we keep this place stable." Small cracks. As darkness settled, a runner came from the river field with a short message. The boundary stones had been reset. Both headmen had help. There was some grumbling, but the stones now stood where old marks showed they should stand. The calf had been returned. The injured man was home. Another runner came from the south granary. The first wagons had left for the north. The count was written on a board for public view. People had lined up calmly after the notice. The rule about old people and families with many children had been followed. Job's runner left with the sealed letter to his father's people. The guard on the south gate watched the runner go. The guard was from a family that had lost a cousin in a raid 2 years ago. He did not like Job's clan. He said nothing, but his eyes stayed on the runner a long time. This was a small thing, but small things build. On the practice field, Mkusali walked alone after the last drill. He checked the spear rack. He checked the horse lines. He saw a broken strap and called for a replacement. He saw Langa's singers walking home and watched them go without a word. He kept his hands behind his back for a long time. He was thinking. He did not always like thinking. He liked clear things. This situation was not clear. In the shrine yard, Zwelinzima rinsed his hands in a bowl and looked up at the sky. He thought about the prophecy he had spoken. He thought about the council. He thought about the queen. He touched his staff to the ground once. He told himself to speak only what was needed from now on. He knew this promise was hard to keep. Evening meal and schedule. At evening meal, Nomvula sat at the head of a small table. This was not a public feast. It was a working meal. Bread, stew, and water. The 4 husbands sat in the order of their arrival that day. She laid out the schedule for the next 7 nights on a wooden slate. "This is the rotation," she said. "It is even. It is clear. If I change it for work or travel, I will say so in the morning. There will be no arguments later." No one spoke. She could feel thoughts moving behind their faces. She kept going. "Tomorrow morning we open the notice board," she said. "Langa, be ready with the signs. Zwelinzima, bring the grain line order. Mkusali, bring 2 women guards for the front gate. Job, meet the herd masters at sunrise for the cattle census start. We move." Mkusali asked one question about the guard shift exchange. Zwelinzima asked one question about where to place the hand symbol on the board. Langa said he would mark it center and low so children could see it. Job asked nothing. He looked steady and quiet. The meal ended. Nomvula dismissed them. She felt the day in her bones. She was not sure if the ground had moved under her or if she had pressed it flat with her step. She did not try to name the feeling. She still had one task. The private rule Nomvula called Nantambai and the scribe. "Write this final rule for my private use," she said. "It will not go on the notice board." She dictated. "When anger rises in me, I will wait until sunrise before I decide punishment unless a life is in danger. When fear rises in me, I will speak to one person I trust before I act. When love pulls me, I will ask if the act helps the kingdom or only my heart. If it is only my heart, I will slow down. When I am tired, I will stop speeches and stop hearings and sleep. Tired rule breaks people." She took the bark paper and rolled it. She placed it in a small box and closed the lid. Nantambai looked at her. "It was a hard day," Nantambai said. "It was a clean day," Nomvula said. "Tomorrow may not be clean." She lay down very late. In the next yard, a drum beat one soft note and then went quiet. The guard at the gate shifted his feet. A dog barked once and then slept. The capital held still. Night visitors just before midnight, a guard came to the door of Job's new house. He said a messenger waited outside the royal fence with a cloth tied to his arm, the sign of Job's clan. The rules allowed this after dark only for urgent matters. The guard asked if he should turn the man away. Job thought for a moment. "Bring him to the south gate shade and wait with him," Job said. "I will inform the queen." Job walked across the yard with his cloak pulled tight. He did not go to the south gate. He went to Nomvula's door and told Nantambai to wake her. When Nomvula stepped outside with a lamp, he spoke in a low voice. "A messenger from my father's people is at the south gate," he said. "It is late. It may be urgent. I did not meet him. I came to you first." Nomvula studied his face. "Good," she said. "Wake Mkusali. We will meet the messenger at the gate together." A few minutes later they stood at the south gate with 2 guards and a lamp. The messenger knelt and kept his hands open. He delivered a short statement. A small band from a third clan had moved near the border shrine and built fires. Job's father's scouts had seen them. The group might be testing the ground to see how the new queen responded. Nomvula listened and asked the messenger to repeat the details twice. Then she spoke. "Carry this answer," she said. "The queen has heard. The queen has taken note. The queen is not moving tonight. The queen will send scouts at sunrise from her own side. The queen asks Job's father to hold his men back. If the group crosses the agreed line, we will speak again with speed." The messenger bowed and left. Mkusali looked like he wanted to argue for a night raid. Nomvula shook her head once. "Scouts at sunrise," she said to him. "You will choose them." He held his tongue and nodded. Job looked relieved and also tense. "Thank you," he said, and then he left for his yard. Nomvula returned to her room and noted the event on a slate by the lamp. She lay down again. Her eyes stayed open for a long time. She was not afraid. She was not calm either. She was simply awake with the shape of the day in her mind. Part 3. The scouts left before sunrise. The air was cold. The grass was wet. Mkusali chose 2 small teams. Each team had 4 soldiers and 1 runner. He picked Duma to lead the first team and Cindy to lead the second. They carried short spears and small shields. They wore plain cloaks so they would not shine in the first light. Nomvula watched them leave from the south gate. She did not give a speech. She only said, "Be clear. Be fast. Do not cross the line." They nodded and went. The notice board while the scouts moved, the main yard began to fill. Langa and the scribes carried the new notice board to the center. It was a flat plank on 2 poles. It stood as high as a man's shoulder. On the top, the scribes carved the word "News." Below it they carved small symbols. A sack shape for grain. a spear for guard and patrol news, a wave line for river rules and water notices, a hand for conduct rules inside the royal fence, a cow horn for cattle and herd count, a small house for household and staff matters. Langa checked the symbols one by one. He spoke to the scribes in a quiet voice. He asked them to make the hand lines simple and clear. He asked them to write the grain line in large letters. He asked them to write the time for the distribution and the ages for the first line. Zwelinzima arrived with the grain order. He carried a short letter for the board. It said how many sacks would move today, which granary would receive them, and how people should line up. He kept it short. Nomvula had asked him to avoid riddles. He did. Mkusili walked by with 2 women guards in front. They took positions at the main gate. They wore the same belts and carried the same short spears as the men. A group of boys near the gate whispered to each other. One laughed. The guard turned her head and looked at them. The boys fell quiet. No one made a scene. Nomvula arrived as the sun reached the top of the eastern fence. She walked to the notice board. People formed a wide circle. She did not stand on a platform. She stood on the ground. Langa stepped beside her with a slate. This board shows the work of the day, she said. If you want to know what we are doing, come here first. If you cannot read, the symbols will help. Ask the scribe to read the words. Do not spread versions that you made up. If you do not agree with a decision, you may bring a question to the court at midday. One at a time. No shouting. She pointed to each line on the board and read it out loud. When she reached the hand symbol, she read the rule about consent slowly and clearly. No one clapped. The yard stayed silent. People listened. A man near the back raised a hand. He wore a leather cap and a cut on his cheek from a past fight. Queen, he said, the council pushed you to take husbands. Why should we trust that this is your board and not theirs? It is my board, Nomvula said. I wrote half these lines with my own hand. I accept counsel when it helps the work. I refuse it when it does not. If you have a question about a line, you bring it to me at court. You do not whisper at the beer pot. The man lowered his hand. He did not look pleased, but he did not push more. Langa lifted his slate. There will be a short gathering each morning after the board is posted, he said. 2 questions only. If your question is not answered, bring it to the court at midday. If a question repeats, the answer will be pointed out on the board. We will not repeat answers all day. A small woman in a red wrap raised a hand. When do the old people stand in the grain line? First, Zwelinzima said. The line will be marked by the guards. The list is on the board now. Thank you, she said. The circle began to break. People moved to their task. Langa asked the singers to help the scribes read the board to groups who wanted it. They did it without songs. They used steady voices. Job and the herd masters. Job met the herd masters at the east kraal at sunrise. They stood around a chalk line on the ground. The chalk broke the kraal into sections. Job held a thin stick and a little bark book. He kept his head uncovered and his hands clean. He started with the first herd master, an older man named Sifo. We start with your herd, Job said. Brands, ages, and counts. Sifo nodded and called to his boys. They moved cattle through the chalk sections in groups of 10. The brands were clear. Job counted, asked for repeats when the group moved too fast, and wrote. At the third kraal, a young herd master named Cabello tried to push the count. He wanted to move groups of 20. Job asked him to slow down. Cabello smiled and offered him dried meat from a bag. Job said no and waved the bag away. He asked for a slower pace. Cabello's smile stayed on his face, but his eyes were not friendly. At the fourth kraal, Job found 3 calves with half-burned brands. The lines were muddy. He asked who had done the branding. The boy looked scared and said the iron was broken. Job asked to see the iron. The iron was fine. He marked the 3 calves as unclear and wrote a note to return with Mkusili's captain in 2 days. 2 men from the crowd whispered to each other and pointed at Job's back. One said, He will send names to his father. He will drain our kraals. Another said, Watch him. Job heard the whisper and did not turn. He kept counting. He made notes. He asked each herd master to sign with a mark by the number for his kraal. Some marked the bark fast. Some took time and looked at each number before they touched the stick to it. By mid-morning, Job had a firm first count. He sent a runner with a short note to Nomvula. First 4 kraals counted. 3 unclear brands. Return in 2 days with a captain. No arrest. People watch me with hard eyes. I continue. The scout report Duma's team returned near mid-morning. They came in with dust on their feet and quiet faces. Mkusali met them at the practice field and waved for them to drink. He took Duma to Nomvula's work hut. There are 12 men at the border shrine, Duma said. They built 3 small fires. They wear plain hide. They carry short spears and long sticks. No shields. They sang one short chant at sunrise. They set a line of stones on their side of the old mark. They did not cross. Which clan? Nomvula asked. They wore red cloth tied to their spear tips, Duma said. I do not know their faces. Cindy's team moved to the west path to look from the hill. They will return by sunset. Zwelinzima listened from the doorway. Red cloth on spear tips can mean mourning or warning, depending on who uses it, he said. We will need Cindy's report. Mkusali leaned forward. Let me take a 20-man team to the line and stand in view. No shout. No move. We stand and they will leave. Nomvula shook her head. No. We do not give them a wall to push against. We send 2 more scout teams at intervals. We write the sighting on the board. We send a message to Job's father that we saw it and that we will not cross the line. We do not feed a fire that is not burning our grass. Mkusali set his jaw. Waiting looks weak. Waiting looks calm, Nomvula said. There is a difference. If they cross, we act. If they take a cow, we act. If they blow a horn, we act. Today, they stood and burned wood. Mkusali wanted to argue. He did not. He nodded once. He stood up and left to brief the next scout teams. A question in the yard as the sun climbed, the notice board drew more people. A young man with a narrow face and a scar by his mouth stood near the hand symbol. He pointed at the rule about consent and spoke loudly. Why do we need this rule in writing? He said. We are not children. This is a palace. We know what is allowed. Langa heard him and walked over. The rule is on the board because the queen wants the rule clear, Langa said. It protects everyone. It protects staff. It protects visitors. It protects you if you are accused. It says we will look at facts and witnesses. The young man snorted. It says we are under a hand like we are children. Mkusali's 2 women guards stepped closer but did not speak. Langa kept his voice even. No one is a child here, Langa said. If you do not touch without consent, this rule will not touch you. Nomvula was watching from across the yard. She did not step in. She let the exchange end. The young man turned away and went to the beer pot outside the fence. The guards relaxed their stance. Court, second day. The court opened at midday with a full yard. People wanted to see how the queen would rule when the case touched hunger. The case was simple on the surface. A market woman named Bulelwa accused her neighbor, a man named Themba, of stealing a small sack of grain from her storage hut in the night. She had seen him run from the doorway. The next morning, she found a trail of grain and followed it to his yard. She found the empty sack by his door. The people were angry. The grain problem had pressed everyone. Some shouted that a thief in thin times must be punished hard. Others shouted that the child in Themba's yard had a cough that would not stop. Nomvula set her hand out, palm down, until the yard quieted. Bulelwa, she said, tell the court what you saw. Bulelwa spoke clearly. I saw him. I followed the trail. I found the sack. It was mine. My mark was on it. Nomvula turned to Themba. Do you deny it? Themba looked at the ground and then up at Nomvula. I took it, he said. My child is sick. I asked for grain 2 days ago. The granary sent me to the line. The line was long. I stood but the sacks ran out. I went home. I came back in the morning and was told to wait for the next day. I panicked in the night. I took the sack. I am sorry. A murmur rolled through the crowd. Some cursed. Some said to forgive him. One man shouted for lashes. A woman shouted for the queen to show mercy. Nomvula called the head of the north granary. Why did the sacks run out? She asked. He gave the count. The wagons had been delayed. The line had been longer than planned because a trader from the hills brought 3 families who were not on the list. He admitted the list management had failed at the end of the day. Nomvula called Zwolinzima. What does the law say? She asked. The law says a thief pays back double the value of what he stole, Zwolinzima said. If the thief cannot pay, he will work for the person he wronged for a set number of days set by the court. The law does not say to beat him. The law does not say to cut him. The law also allows mercy when a life is at risk. The yard shifted again. Some shouted for the law. Some shouted for more. Some shouted for less. Nomvula spoke without raising her voice. The law is clear. Bulelwa, how much grain was in the sack? Half a sack, she said. Themba, Nomvula said, do you have grain to repay now? No, he said. I have no grain, no cattle. I can work. Then this is the ruling, Nomvula said. Themba will work for Bulelwa for 12 days. He will carry water, mend fences, and do what she directs within reason. The palace will provide Bulelwa with a half sack today, so she does not lose her trade while he repays her. The palace will then deduct that half sack from Themba's labor in the form of work on the well project. Langa will add 2 extra water points on market days, so the grain line moves faster. The granary will use 2 lists, not 1. 1 list for old people and families with many children. 1 list for all others. The lists will be posted and checked by 2 people, not 1. A group near the back booed. A man shouted, he stole. He should bleed. Nomvula faced him. The law does not say that, she said. The law says pay back. He will pay back. If he refuses to work, he will be confined and work for the crown. If he works, he returns to his child with dignity. If you want blood because you are angry, go to the river and shout. This court follows the law. The man dropped his eyes. The shouting died. Some people sighed. Others nodded. Bulelwa looked at Themba. You start at sunrise, she said. You will carry without complaint. If you stay home one day, I will tell the queen. I will not miss, Themba said. Nomvula struck the ground once with the end of her spear. Case closed. After court, friction in the open, the yard emptied slowly. People stayed in clumps and talked. Langa moved among them and answered questions about the list. He asked the singers to take the 2-list idea to the line. He asked the scribes to carve new lines for the board. Mkusali oversaw a small patrol switch and then walked toward the practice field for a public demonstration he had planned for late afternoon. He wanted the people to see the guard teams move in order. He had set rope lines to keep the crowd back. Langa arrived with a group of children and mothers to watch. What are the rope lines for? Langa asked. Safety, Mkusali said. Spears move fast. Horses move faster. The people cannot see well behind the ropes, Langa said. Move them forward by a few steps. If they feel pushed back, they will think you are hiding weakness. I am not hiding anything, Mkusali said. I am stopping a spear from going into a child. We can use markers on the ground and men with hands to guide, Langa said. Ropes look like barriers. Guides look like care. Ropes are clear, Mkusali said. They stood facing each other with the crowd between them. The mothers heard the words, child and spear. They stepped back on their own. Langa saw it and changed his tone. Keep the rope, he said, but mark gaps so people can move to better sight lines between sets. Mkusali looked at the guards. Add gaps at the ends, he said. Move the rope rings. Leave a path. The guards moved the rope. People shifted forward in small groups. The field looked less tense. The demonstration began. The guard lines moved in pairs. They showed how they turned to face a threat on the left or right. They showed how they changed positions when a captain went down. They showed how to shield an opening so a child or elder could pass through. It was simple and clear. It made sense to people who had never been a soldier. When it ended, some clapped. Some nodded. Some just left with quiet faces and went back to work. After the crowd went, Mkusali stood with Lenga. His voice was flat. "Do not argue with me in front of a rope," he said. "Ask before the crowd stands there." Lenga nodded. "Ask me the same. If I plan a public moment, I will call you first. We both have work to do. We both want people to feel safe." "That is true," Mkusali said. "Call me first." "I will," Lenga said. They parted with a short nod. A check on staff. Nomvula walked the inner fence with Nantambai. They checked the new posts and the thin gaps between houses. They listened for gossip. They looked at faces. At the kitchen yard, the head of staff brought her a list of workers who would cover for the cook who had been removed for misconduct. The list spread the work across 3 shifts. No one would be in the kitchen alone late at night. 2 women would be present on each night shift. The head of staff also presented a small box for reports. It had a slit on the top and a lock on the side. "This is for written reports if people are afraid to speak in the open," she said. "Nantambai and I will open it together each morning." Nomvula approved it. "Put a small copy of the hand symbol on the lid," she said. "Add a line that says, 'You will be heard.'" The head of staff nodded and went to find a scribe. Princess Amelie's count in the cloth storeroom. Princess Amelie stood over stacks of folded fabric. 2 young women wrote numbers on bark. Amelie held a thin stick and checked each stack. She moved slow. She lifted a corner and checked for hidden gaps in the middle. She found 3 stacks that were short. She marked them. She did not make a scene. She noted who had signed out those stacks in the past week. Nomvula stepped in. Amelie looked up with bright eyes. "I found 3 short stacks," Amelie said. "I have names. I will speak to them at dusk. If they cannot explain, I will bring the names to you." "Good," Nomvula said. "Keep calm. Do not accuse before you ask." Amelie nodded. "I will ask first." She hesitated. "Lenga did well at the board," she said. She forced her tone to be steady. "He spoke simply." "He did," Nomvula said. "He also argued at the rope before he adjusted. He will learn." Amelie smiled. "He learns fast." Nomvula looked at her sister for a long moment. "Do the work," she said. "I am doing it," Amelie said, and she went back to counting. A quiet offer as the light began to soften. Job returned from the crawls with dust on his feet and a full set of first counts. He washed his hands at a basin outside his yard. A man in a gray cloak leaned on the fence and spoke to him in a low voice. "You are doing careful work," the man said. "Some of the herd masters do not like careful work." Job looked up. "Do I know you?" The man smiled. "I move between crawls and markets. I hear things. If you want quieter days, you can mark some calves as clear when they are not. People will call you fair. Your journey will be easier." Job wiped his hands dry and set the cloth on the fence. "What is your name?" The man did not answer that. He lifted a small pouch. "A gift for a busy day," he said. Job did not take it. "Tell the herd masters this," he said. "I write what I see. I take no gift. If a brand is unclear, I mark it. If the iron is broken, I mark it. In 2 days I will return with a captain and a new iron. We will make the mark clear. If someone fights me, I will step back and bring the queen." The man's smile faded. "That is a hard path." "It is the only path," Job said. The man put the pouch away and left. Job watched him go. He looked tired but steady. Cindy's team returned at sunset. They came in from the west path. They looked more worn than Duma's team. They drank water and then went straight to Nomvula. "The men at the shrine come from the Ndabini Hills," Cindy said. We saw their hair knots, we saw their leader's face. He is called Mvelo. He used to trade cattle near the old crossing. He is not a chief. He is a loud man who gathers other loud men. The red cloth is not mourning. It is a warning. They tied it on when they stood. They left a small thing at the old mark. What thing? Nomvula asked. Cindy held out a small carved figure wrapped in a cloth. It was a simple shape of a seated person. The head had a notch cut into it. A crack ran down one side. The face was blank. Zwelinzima looked at it and frowned. Some groups leave carved signs instead of words, he said. A figure with a crack can say we see weakness. Or it can say we will break what we see. Mkusili stepped closer. Let me take men to the line and stand in view, he said again. This is a test. If we do nothing, they will come closer tomorrow. Nomvula weighed the report. 12 men. 3 fires. A leader who liked noise. A carved figure with a crack. No crossing. No stolen cow. No horn. Duma, she said, you and Cindy will each take a new team at sunrise. You will watch from the hill. If they cross the line, you will light a small fire in a set place to signal. If they touch a cow, you will light 2. If they blow a horn and call more men, you will send your runner at once. She turned to Mkusili. You will position a 20-man team at the east field. They will be ready to move fast if we see the signal. They will not leave until I say. They will eat and rest and wait. Mkusili did not like waiting, but he heard the plan. He nodded once. Nomvula handed the carved figure to Nantambai. Put it in the small box in my hut, she said. Add a note with the time and the report. We will keep it. Night meeting after dark. The 4 husbands came to the shared hall for a short meeting. The lamp light was low. Bread and water sat on the table. Nomvula spoke first. The board is working. The court held. The scouts brought details. The crawls gave first count. The rope lines kept people safe. We have work tomorrow on all these. She looked at each man. Mkusili, you will build the ready team and set their rest and food. Do not grind them to dust before we need them. I will set it, he said. Zwelinzima, meet me at first light with a note on the Ndabini hills and any ties they have to traders here. Keep it to 10 lines. I will write it, he said. Langa, finish the 2-list board for the grain and set the water points for market day. Add a small line about where to stand. I will finish it, he said. Job, return to the crawls at sunrise. Take Captain Thandi with you for the unclear brands. Make the marks clear. Do not let the man in the gray cloak near you again. If he returns, bring his name. Job gave a small smile. You heard about him. I hear many things, she said. She stood. One more rule for us, she said. If you want to argue with each other, come to me first. Do not argue through a rope. Do not argue through a soldier. We will have differences. We will settle them in this room or in mine. They all nodded. No one pushed back. Nomvula dismissed them. She stayed in the hall for a few minutes after they left. She looked at the empty table. She looked at the door. She breathed in and out in a steady way until her shoulders loosened. A short walk before sleep, Nomvula walked to the river edge with 2 guards. The water moved under the moon. She crouched and dipped her hand. She did not speak. She did not ask the water for anything. She stood and went back. At her door, Nantambai waited. There is one more message, Nantambai said. A runner from the West Market brought it. A trader says Mvelo sold 2 oxen last season and kept the beads. He left 3 men unpaid. They were seen near the shrine today. Write the names, Nomvula said. Add them to the morning note for Zwelinzima. Nantambai nodded. Nomvula went inside. She unstrapped her belt and set her spear against the wall. She looked at the small box where the carved figure now rested. She closed the lid. She lay down and shut her eyes. She kept them closed until sleep finally came.